and action. This is the Ranting Rose, a space, a place for a conversation. Today I am thinking about, wow, the obstacles in our life, of which there are so many. I'm reminded of this as I try to attain peace and hear all the distracting noises around me. I'm thinking about this as I reflect upon events at my workplace last night. And every night, I'm thinking about this as I walk down the street to see my wife off to work and the subtle things that happen along the way. I think we need to realize that we live in a life of obstacles. Most importantly, stressing, I think, obstacles that get in the way of being our best selves. And I think it also takes an eye to realize these obstacles sometimes. And as we open up our eyes more and more and work on our own lives, that allows us to become more sensitive to seeing these obstacles, we become almost overwhelmed and bombarded by just how many there are. It is beyond systemic. It seems to literally lie in the fabric of our lives in every single corner. And so what do? I think even when I try hard, I always reflect upon my work, and I realize that I cannot overcome them all. I cannot overcome them all, even when I deeply, deeply, deeply desire to. And so that's why we need prayer. That's why we need to lean on something and someone, because the ability to do anything is so beyond us. Especially when you open up your eyes and you see what's before us, you feel what's before you in every single day. Obstacles. Many of the obstacles, I think, lie in the people that surround us. From my experience, many of the obstacles is trying to do that which I believe I must, provided to me by the instruction manual that I follow, when also being constantly entangled with a world that's filled with people who either seemingly aren't following that same instruction manual or appeared not to be ready even if they were aware of the instructions to do so. And not letting that fact rattle your own self to continue following. This is a trial. This is a trial. And I feel in my heart, honestly, that I try so hard, and yet it escapes me to arise amidst them all, So that's humbling. That's super, super humbling. So I give God thanks, for the energy required to get over them, some of them. More so than that, I thank God for the awareness to even perceive an obstacle as an obstacle, and for the strength to take it on. And less worried, I think, in my best sense of self, about the score, the record, less about that and more just about the opportunity to try. And amidst trying to reflect on the times, the instances that one feels victorious, if you want to call it that, overcoming the obstacle, and also really, really reflecting on the times, the subtle moments each and every day that we feel we did not rise. And then, begging the question within self of like what we're going to do about it. And that's where we ask God, we say, God, come into us. Help us, help us, help us to understand how today we can do that better. The best I've come to know is like a proactive defense. It's the awareness that the obstacles are there and will be there. I think always. I think previously I used to think that I could get myself to a way, to a place that would be able to defend all and rise above all. And that was, I think, a very vain thought, that I could potentially practice enough that I could become something that was impenetrable. Something like maybe like a Buddhist monk, right? Like that I could just be in peace, right? And in some ways, I feel I can be in peace. But can I be in peace when I'm shaken? Ooh, can I be in peace when I'm shaken? And can I be in peace when I'm continually shaken and shaken more? For that I have to give. I don't want to give, but I have to give in best self. Thanks for the work that I do as a server in a restaurant. I think about it all the time. Excuse the dings, but I also want to excuse the dings because that means my wife loves me. She always wants to communicate. That's awesome. But yeah, I mean, really, really developing the strength to grow daily is a really, 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 really hard thing to do. Huh? So proactive defense is knowing that the obstacles will be ever present. So I have to be aware and discern what are the obstacles, allowing myself not to react to them, because obstacles want you to react to them. Obstacles that I think are placed in people and placed in events. And this most especially happens, as I mentioned, being a server in a restaurant. What a world restaurants are. Wow, what a world restaurants are. They are almost entirely built off stress. I've been doing this for so long, and when you see it enough times, when you feel it enough times, it has to just kind of be what it is, right? And the stress at the end of the day in restaurants is so particular because it comes from every single angle. You have one layer, which is the stress of your management and higher ups to want you to perform. That is like the easiest stress for me, particularly, because, well, then you learn how to perform, and you perform, and you continue to perform. Thanks be to God, I'm very able to be a robot. I'm very able to execute. Thanks be to God for the natural gift I have to love and care for people, and to want to cultivate an experience for anyone, regardless of being in a restaurant or not. Cultivate an experience that is better, and allow them to share in that better experience for nothing. I enjoy to do that. That's why I'm That's what I'm trying to do here. And and to know the science of what is required to do that, which could be a longer story. I don't think there's really a need to get into it. But second of that, you also have the pressure of dealing with someone that they call a chef, who is the anchor point of the food coming to the table. They're the preparer, they're the executor of how it's served, they're the manager of, the profit ratio needed for the business to thrive, not survive, because businesses don't care to survive. They care to thrive, and even more so today than they did yesterday. This is capitalism at the end of the day. And it's ironic to me because I don't really, there are few I have met, but very few chefs I see really actually taking a part in the grind of it all. They're more like a manager, you know. And and there's a lot of stress that they put on everyone, everyone around them. And also they're too, I think, with the knowledge often that I found, that they feel that they're a chef. So there's a position of like very ego, of like, it's a very belittling nature to even talk to a chef, as I'm a mere server. It's a level of communication that's already kind of set against you. And so it's very hard to navigate, and um, it's very much that the littler of the two in the transaction has to take the brunt of the responsibility for any problem, you know. So that's another sidebar conversation that you could go into for a long way. Then there's the stress of the people you're serving, right? Who, many of which I've come to know, come to literally have an experience that makes them feel bigger than they are, which is similar to me, regardless of socioeconomic status, a human being. They come to feel bigger than they are and to celebrate the long lasted history of servitude, of, at the end of the day, slavery. They want to feel like they don't need to prepare their own food, of course, for a price. They transact a certain money amount to come into a place and feel that they don't need to clean it, they don't need to prepare a table, they don't need to cook food. And there will be this gentleman or woman who will come up to them and be so enthused about everything to do with their life and nothing to do with their own, and that they would wipe the table and clean it and set all the dishes in the right way and smile always and say yes to anything they would have to. This is insane if you think about it. Insane. And at the same time, I think we also pretend that what we're truly trying to do, or what we present ourselves to do, is to have an artist called a chef, right? Who is like creating something special with food, right? And sharing it with these people for a certain price point, and that the manager is there to like make sure things are going well, but like generally cares in a human way about the people, and that the people are, so curious or so inquiring or so enthused by the art being performed that they come and transact upon it to experience it, when really that's not the case. It's just really not the case. The server is in the middle of everything and taking everything from everyone to do this weird thing. It's way far from having someone over to your home and sharing a good meal, which is where you would think the heart of it all should come from, because really that's where, anything artistic or anything like really beautiful that came from food came from there. you know. And and it's something very, very interesting. So, to make a long story short, I see why God placed me here, and I thank God for placing me here, and I'm happy and enthused to do the work. But it is very difficult, and I don't mean to make it sound more difficult than anyone else's line of work, because I'm sure that person is more versed in their environment and could have an equal conversation about all the nuances of this crazy thing that they go through. Mainly what I'm trying to say to you is work is it's the obstacle warehouse in your life. It's the obstacle warehouse in your life, because whether you work in restaurants or banks or an office somewhere or a clothing store, it doesn't matter, because you have to come to realize that we are human beings in the middle of anything but a human world. We are living in a business world where a business or a corporation is a it's an illusion. It's not actually a human entity that is, at the end of the day, profiting off human action, behavior, consumption, and using humans to facilitate that. And at the end of the day, it's all about the extraction from the consuming party. So you're not set up to win, you know. You're not set up to win, and so that's what I'm speaking to is obstacles today, and how does one really thrive in like a spiritual life, an awakened life, a better life for oneself when encountering the obstacle of all the nuanced things that happen at work each and every single day. And again, it goes back to my previous point. What I've come to believe, what I've come to think is like just proactive defense. It's about separating. Like I think we need to separate like life and work first and foremost. Life is not work. They, you know, for anybody who has that idea that their life is work or that work can be life, right? We have people who say, you know, find what you love to do and you'll never work a day in your life. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there are a few select people who get to do that, but it seems to me, even going down that road at some point in time for it to become work, you kind of lose an element of, you know, doing it just in the way you love it so much, you know, when it becomes kind of an end goal to like pay the bills, you know. I don't know if it's that free flowing, you know what I mean? So clearly, I think our most alert self should realize that when we go to work, we're trying to survive, right? And you know, the only way we could possibly do that in a world, from my experience, that seems really relentless to bring you obstacles, is to be really ready for that. So that means really your entire awakened life outside of work needs to be about preparing your vessel. You know, it needs to be about, you know, the prayer life, the food life, the calm, you know, the recharge, the being with family, the loved ones, you know, because all those things cultivate within you the energy where it could be most possible to overcome those obstacles. And even in my attempts, I realize with any attempt, it will still be impossible to overcome them all. You know, and I think I understand why. It could be a longer conversation as to what's going on there, but you know, I think that there's a very, very negative force in it all that is literally, you know, trying to seize us and make us more of a mechanism than a human, and also trying to hurt us along the way. I think that system is literally designed to do that, because if not, then there would be ways to do the same thing that would cultivate the human spirit more than a desired profit. So that's not happening. That's not happening. So yeah, at the end of the day, I've come to realize in my life that um, under certain circumstances, when obstacles I face, I will not rise. And that's when I'm not refreshed. I'm not leading a healthy life. I haven't had sleep. I haven't enriched myself with good foods. And I haven't prayed. I haven't connected with God. I haven't, I'm already like just barely breathing, So either I'm with those actions, essentially giving myself a horse tranquilizer to just sleep my way through work. Probably it would be a comfortable existence for me. Or I'm potentially destroying myself in a more major way, and I'm reacting to a lot of those obstacles, and my time there will probably be limited. Or I'll be wrestling with a lot of things outside there. So, what I've come to realize for me is like really a lot of my full time job, really, which I don't get paid for at all, is making sure that I'm as ready as I can be to try to survive in the place that allows me to systemically take care of myself. But also with the added notion that within that paradigm, within those constraints, that I can also have a little extra effort to try to retain being in that place, what I would desire to pass along to others and have them hold of me, which is quite the work. And I think anybody who does it will find it, it's pretty exhausting. And so, last night particularly, there's no need to go into details, but just obnoxious stuff. And in the line of trying to, come out of the storm again and trying to like seize back the true responsibility to be a child of God and like clean up my life, I find that the triggers of reverting back to my old ways are oftentimes on the other side of the pressure and stress of going through those obstacles past a threshold that the human spirit can and should actually handle. And that my brain, I've allowed it, I've been taught, but also furthered that teaching in my mind to deal with the reality of that as I get home, to dive into my particularly selected behaviors that help me, like put to an end those things that I went through, right? And for people, this could be totally different things. It could be ice cream after work, a big pizza. It could be drugs. It could be alcohol. It could be a bunch of things. But really, at the end of the day, I think a lot of us learn to destroy ourselves in the process of what it takes to defend ourselves from people trying to destroy us. What? What? That's wild. That's really, really wild. I think like at a base level, that's kind of what's going on. So I think it takes a great strength to understand that the latter part of that will never change. That we will have to go into places, go into spaces, go into circumstances where inevitably there will be a lot of obstacles, and the obstacles are really designed to try to destroy us. They may be directly designed to destroy us, like someone literally has an angst to destroy us, but they can also very subtly, from the fact that that person isn't healed, isn't happy, isn't obviously working on their life in a particular way, that inherently the energy they possess seeks to destroy others, at least in an attempt to lift themselves up, right? And so that won't change. So we have to get comfortable, right, with that idea, that possibility. And then thereafter, we knowing that, right, have to not use things that may be learned behaviors or easy, comfortable behaviors to take on that appear to help us resolve those issues, but actually, in the proper reflection, we can see that they further destroy us. So, I love my faith because this is explained by evil works. This is explained by evil works. I think a lot of us are taken away from concepts of faith, spirituality, when we think about it very linearly, like in a human way, like the devil and demons and a guy and all this sort of stuff. We get so wrapped in, but it's very clear, I think, if we were to want to entertain the imagination, that there's some things going on. There's some forces happening each and every day, and the hippy dippy person will call it like energy and low vibrational and high, whatever they want to. I mean, it all kind of points to the same thing. We're wrapped up in something every day, which is both in us and outside of us, and high and low and good and bad. But where we live now and how we live now, I don't think anybody would disagree that there is a high volume of bad stuff. Yeah. Energy. Bad energy. Like it exists within all of us, and within many of us it exists at a high level. And I don't think it's about, it's me versus them. Like, it exists a little bit in me and it exists a lot in that. I think it's about what I found in my own personal life is that when it exists in a high level inside of me, what I reflect on myself and realize is that I have let myself astray and have not taken care of myself. Most certainly not the way that God would intend me to take care of myself. And so knowing that, I have the responsibility to take better care of myself, but I also have the responsibility to share that wealth with others, which means not only not letting that which attempts to destroy me, but holding myself in a way against it that can hopefully share that wealth, illuminate without words the people around me so they can see what is possible if they were to take on the same endeavor. And 9 times out of 10 they won't take on the endeavor, but at least to see it, I think, is something meaningful for the world, right? So it's quite the quest, and it's something that I think exists outside of us. And so we need to constantly, like, not only inquire as a human mind, but we need to ask God, like, really, like, please help me, right? Because I know in my heart what I want to do, what I desire to do. Really, I really do, and I'm attempting, right? But the threshold is, the pressure is beyond what I can handle, right? So I know I have to get better at that. So I would imagine we all do. We're all humans, so it's really, and it's tough to do too. Like at work, I don't think anyone really cares to offer you time to be like in prayer, right? To be in prayer and to be prayerful and to be reflective and introspective and to even have a moment to consider any of these thoughts, So going back to my previous point, we have to take our awakened life, not being paid, outside of that, to do all of those works in order to then do those works that are transacted against in a way where we can like leave and like really keep our soul at the end of the day, like really. So I don't know if this is something that's talked about. I think like we do need to talk about it more. It's kind of like what I think it's kind of like a main feature of our lives, and I'm still learning a lot of how to do that daily, and I'm really asking God, I'm praying to God to help me and to protect me as well, because as I make mistakes in the system's eyes, I could potentially at any time be punished, for those mistakes, because you know it's God will always love you. That's why I love God. He'll always love you. You can make mistakes every day of your life, and I believe He always loves you. Work is not like that. Work is not like that. Work does not love you. Work does not love you. If I need to stress it again, I will. Work does not love you. How can you tell? Because make a mistake, right? And then the next day, be called in for that mistake and say you're sorry and tell them the truth, at least your truth of why that mistake happened, and look in their eyes. And you can see that they don't hear you. They don't care about your explanation. What is required is for you not to do that mistake again, or to leave the premises immediately, because they've already come to their own decision. So that's where we are, you know. And furthermore, we have decisions in the matter, but I don't believe, just with my observation, that we'll collectively get together and fight for one decision I'm thinking of. So right now, that decision would be to rally up against it and make it change. I think it's a long time coming for that. But what we can do is we can learn that, unfortunately, our waking hours not being paid should be contributing work to the task of keeping ourselves as wholly aligned with God in Christ as possible, so that when we ultimately have to go to the dark, 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 dark places of work, that we can survive with enough light to then go do it again. And while we're in that dark, 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 dark place called work, that we can also cast light, because we are here to serve, And it's ironic. In closing, it's ironic. I'll say that for me, I have this tendency many times in my life to look at myself like, wow, what a failure I am. What a failure I am to be a server, a mere server. And I have people in my life that, without words, confirm that thought with just the way they look at it and speak about it. What a failure. You're smart enough to be an engineer and you're a server. And, I'm 36. I'm still growing a lot, but I am growing a lot. And, I think in my best days, I'm so thankful to be a server. So thankful to be a server, because pretty much everything about it is humility. Everything about it is humility. And I think God too, that we do well. We do well. So yeah, what if I'm supposed to be a server? What if that's what I'm here for? At least for now, to serve. It wouldn't be so surprising, would it? Isn't that what we're here for, to serve? So it brings up the misconception about the spiritual life and what it means to serve. And I think a lot of us think that service is about, healing to a point where people admit it or embrace it or commemorate it or whatever. I think it's exactly the opposite of that. It's serving to serve, and it's like knowing the reason why, and that's enough to keep going. And again, I'm talking about work, but in our best senses of self, we do the same level of service at its best in so many other aspects. That is how so many other aspects of our life. That is how you serve, And so it helps me when I realize that I serve the church as I serve a table. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? And then I can rewire my brain to give thanks and say, wow, they pay me for this. Wow, I get paid for this. And in my darker times, I used to think of myself as almost like a Robin Hood, right? Like I would take with these guests who were like, many guests just don't treat you great. And that I could, through the means of serving them, be humble, hopefully with my heart, change their initial interpretation of who I am, what we are, and what is possible for their imagination of a server going forward, and that I'd also take their money really at the end of the day quite wasted, right? Because there's almost no reason to go to a restaurant other than just egotism. There's almost no reason to go to a restaurant other than egotism. And so I could take some of that, what I would consider kind of dirty money, and clean it up by placing it in the survival of someone attempting light. Wow, right? And so that's something that helps me get through the day. But yeah, I just wanted to talk today about obstacles, because I think that is life. I really, in my naive senses, younger, thought that I could create something anytime, anywhere that could be that would have no obstacles, that would be ever free and ever peaceful. And you can and you can't, right? I think the can of it is doing all of that with said peace amidst the obstacles. Ooh, not ready to do it. Not ready to do it. Working towards it, not ready to do it. May never be ready to do it, but we'll continue. And so everybody, I think, has different connections to God, different reasons why they enjoy this spiritual life. For me, a lot of it has come from just the deep respect and admiration for God and his wisdom and his intent, and the resolution he provides us for the suffering and the obstacles and the hardships of life. And that there's a magic and there's a mystery to it, and so we're following it and never attain it. And again, that he provides an instruction manual to kind of get there is very awesome. It's very beyond us. It's very awesome. And so we quest with him, and we give him thanks for the quest. And that's kind of where we leave it, because at the end of the day, it's important for us to realize that we're nothing. We're nothing. I'm nothing. I'm you know me as James, and I'm a human, and of course that deserves value, but at the same time, 100 years from now, I'll be dust. I'll be gone, and that's okay. Because hopefully the things I do with these moments resonate in a way that they meant something, and in that I live. And of course, we know with our faith where we're going. We know what this means, this physical life, and this knowing is supposed to give us peace. So this is where we are, and this work I'm choosing to do now is, for me, the least I can do to both go through the introspection, but also to share the wealth of the wisdom provided to me to contemplate it, and to then ask. It's also an ask. It's also being open with an audience and asking with the collective help to come together to figure it out together, right? To have ideas along the way and build something together. What an interesting feat. So in that, I'll close. It's another day, and we'll close as we always do in prayer. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. I just realized I've had my mic on with the intention of getting better audio, but I actually never plugged in the whatever this is that makes it work. So maybe tomorrow I'll be with you with not only a microphone, but also a working microphone. We'll close out in prayer. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Heavenly Father, gotta be the same thanks every day initially. Thank you for our lives. Yeah, thank you for our lives. Let's do it together. Ready? Isn't it crazy? I can think of many people who don't have it right now, and yet we do. So thank you, God, for the opportunity to live. My second thanks always is my wife. Can't believe I found her. I don't deserve her, and yet she stands by my side She told me yesterday that she was honored to do it, and that gives me great joy. I thank God for the fact that I have a family, and that family, twofold by the way, loves me. And I thank God also for the simple pleasures, but also the great luxuries in this day, for food, for shelter, for the ability to have this time with you all. What a joy it gives me. I pray, from the deepest part of my heart's part of my hearts part of my heart, because I think I have one, for those who are lost, man. For those who are lost, for those out there who are like, giving up, they're in hardship, they're angry, they don't believe God, they want nothing to do with the church, they're rebellious, they're confused. I'm praying for them. I'm praying that, God can find his way into their hearts today to kind of let them see, the truth. And the way in which he might do it, it might be it will be beyond my comprehension. It might not be as cute as we think, but I'm praying for him to be with them, because I know how important it is. I know how important it's been to me, so I know how important it is. And I'm praying for the world. I'm praying for the world that we can find a way really to get the stuff out of our ears, stuff out of our eyes. We can like wash ourselves, and figure out what's truly important in this life. And as we do that, we can bind ourselves together with one another, find unity for a singular cause of following Christ. I'm praying that we can do this. Of course, I'm praying for the sick and the needy and those that have passed. I'm praying for peace in my life and all of our lives, and I'm praying for the renewed strength every day and the wisdom of which both of those are only provided by God, to get through another day, that he may give us what we need today to get through this day, and if we don't have another tomorrow, that he saw this and knows how grateful I've been for all of it. So with that, I leave you. Thank you for watching.